Okay, hello, 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 everybody. I'm so excited. We finally made it to today when we're going to be talking about Gnostics and Gnosticism as a whole. So Reverend Sakina, would you like to introduce your guest? Oh, wait a minute. Today is Thursday, April the 6th, 2023, and we are in our class, Introduction to Gnosis. And Reverend Sakina, would you like to introduce your guest?
Sure. From Gnosis, we have two speakers, Edith Gordova and also Amid Alis. And I'll let them take it over. So we welcome you, and we're eager to hear what you have to share with us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So Edith, if you want, would you like to do the opening prayer, and I can do the closing?
Sure. Be delighted to. So let's close our eyes and let's just focus our attention inward into our heart as we say, Divine Father, we thank you for allowing us to be in your presence this time, for allowing us to be in this group. We thank you for guiding us. We thank you for bringing us together. And we ask at this moment that everything that is going to happen here, that has been guided by your will, allow us to join all these minds in one great thought and guide us into and get us closer to our conscience awakening. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Okay.
We had another member, Isis. She has as well.
Oh, good.
Great. Hello, how are y'all doing?
Hi, Isis.
Hello.
Glad you can make it.
Thank you. I'm glad I made it on time.
It's
Good.
never too late for us.
That's perfect.
All
Well,
right.
whoever would like to begin, you can begin.
Okay. Thank you. Well, so actually, Edith, if you don't mind, I'll start us off.
Yes.
All right. So thank you all for having us, for inviting us to share a little bit about what Gnosticism is with you all. Sakina, we've met each other at some of our open events, so it's lovely to see you in this forum as well. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving us this opportunity to share a little bit and shed a little bit of light. But before we go down that path, I do want to ask, you know, what do you all know about Gnosticism? What are the things that are kind of like, you know, top level curiosities or things that you would like to know, or if you don't know anything at all, that's perfectly fine as well. Just to get an idea of what, if anything, you've heard about Gnosticism previously. So
I'm in kindergarten or nursery school.
Oh, no, well, so here's the thing. You aren't. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. But yes, please, if anybody else.
Yeah, we were using the book by Samuel Anwar, Introduction to Gnosis. And we just finished that. So that's, you know, what I shared with them, that Herbert had given it to me. And after reading it, I thought the group might be interested in hearing about it. So that's what we've had so far.
So that's actually perfect. So you guys have had a little bit of exposure to the book, Introduction to Gnosis, and the Venerable Master Samael, and we refer to him as that because of his, you know, the spiritual grade that he was able to attain in his last existence here on Earth. So I'm going to venture forth and say, I'm pretty sure you all believe or are at least aware of this concept of, well, most people call it reincarnation, right? This
Yes.
concept that we're born again and again in this circle of samsara, etc. So
Yes.
I will say that perfect. So in Gnosticism, we understand that we return, right? All of our essences, all of our souls return back to this material plane. There's a purpose for it, obviously. Reincarnation specifically is sort of this reserved for those beings that have ascended to such a point that they can choose to come back to reincorporate themselves into this third dimensional plane, sort of at will under the conditions that they wish for that to be. And the more normally they do this in order to serve humanity, to continue to serve humanity. So the Venerable Master Samael came to this planet, or reincorporated into this third dimensional material plane in order to bring this message of Gnosticism to the masses. He was born in Colombia. He then migrated to Mexico, and from there he was able to, spread Gnosticism through Latin America, Central and South America specifically, but also here into North America, and eventually to the rest of the world as well. Reason for that being, this message, Gnosticism, had already been brought to other parts of the world. If we think about somewhere around the 18th century with some of the other esoteric schools that pop up in Europe, this message was presented, all right? And to a certain extent, it had already made its way over to the United States by way of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, HPV, which I don't know if you are, yes, I'm sure you are aware of who she was. So also an amazing master in their own right, a spiritual guru that was able to bring to the folks that were around her this message of, we call it a message of hope and salvation, because that's really what it is. The Venerable Master Samael, presented the Gnosticism, the Gnostic doctrine, as the fifth gospel, this gospel of salvation and hope for this era in which we're currently living. I don't think I need to prolong with this group, just how crazy the world is right now, just how saturated with negativity, the constant messaging that we're getting, the materialistic, I would say, messaging that we get bombarded with almost on an everyday basis, to the point where we almost are used to turning away from that inner spirituality, that inner divinity that resides within. The Venerable Master Samael said, with this message, we need to return to that divineness that exists within us. And that's what Gnosticism, if you've done any research on Gnosticism at all, it's not a new doctrine. It's not a new philosophy, a new school. Gnosticism has been around for a very long time, to the point where in the early stages of Christianity, Gnosticism was right there with it. The biggest difference is that we attribute our ability to save, in quotes, because we are saving ourselves, we're saving our souls, we're saving our essences from this other that we've managed to create through all these external influences and our own likes and dislikes. That's called the ego. And I have to clarify one thing, that in psychology, modern psychology, there is this word ego that was coined thanks to Sigmund Freud back in the late 1800s. When we refer to the word ego in Gnosticism, it has a different flavor, okay? And I make that clarification because there are times when I've had conversations with people and the word ego pops up, and it's like, oh, well, I understand the ego in this scholarly, psychological manner, and it doesn't necessarily, there's a barrier, there's a little bit of friction that's created there when we try to have these conversations. So I do want to make that clarification. And I think in the introduction to Gnosis, that clarification is pretty clear. It's upfront.
Mhm.
Where our ego is this other, these multiple others that exist within us. And I'm not trying to suggest that all of us have this multiple personality complex or disorder or anything, but rather that our desires, our wants, all of these things that are apart from that divine energy, that divine source that is what we really are, all these things represent the ego. These moments of manifestation that are what make us angry, are what make us envious, are what make us gluttonous, lustful, etc. The seven deadly sins are a great way to categorize what the ego is. But if we're honest, and the Venerable Master Samael says, the egos are as limitless as the stars. There's an anecdote that he says, if you had a tongue made of iron and 1,000 years and you wouldn't get tired, you probably wouldn't finish enumerating or listing all of the different egos that hide in our subconsciousness. This philosophy of the ego, however, of the many, is not something that is exclusive to just the Gnostic doctrine, or is only thought about or discussed about within Gnosticism. The Buddhists talk about the ego. The Hindus talk about it. Many of the world's religions recognize that there is this other part of us, this hidden part of us that is not really who we are or who we were when we originated from source. I'm going to pause right there for a second and ask, are you aware of, or have you encountered this idea, this concept of source, this place from which we all emanate or come from?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that's not, that's not like coming out of left field, which is good.
No,
So-
actually, we're a metaphysical group. So, we have, I think most of us have been in unity or, in Course in Miracles. So you are really speaking our language.
Perfect. Perfect. That's awesome. So, and that's good because that makes this conversation flow a lot better, I think. And there's going to be benefits for this dialogue moving forward, which is great. And it makes some of the terminology that we'll be using a lot easier to understand and to answer questions, which is fantastic. And that's not to say that we can't have, or we don't try to have conversations with people who adhere to more traditional or more orthodox religions or doctrines. Quite the opposite. For us, that is also an incredible source of information. The message is there. Gnosticism is plain as day there if you know how to read it and if you know how to interpret what's being said. When you guys started talking about Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, that's, for me, it's like, hey, you get it. You're understanding how the different levels of the emanations, the different levels of creation, where we really come from, what we ought to aspire to return to, as opposed to more of this dogmatic perception of religion. For Gnostics, religion is it's one of the four pillars of Gnosticism, along with philosophy, art, and science. But for religion, when it comes to religion, it's not about a dogma necessarily, but it's about the authentic religion or rejoining of our essence, our soul, with that inner being that exists within us, that part of divinity that emanated from the absolute, from that plane of existence that is unmanifested. So to us, religion is absolutely important because we want to return to source. We want to return to our inner being, our inner father. We want to do it consciously. We want to choose to turn away from the ego, from the materialistic world and all of its trappings, and pursue the spiritual reality that we know exists within us. with the understanding that there's a hurdle. That's what the ego is. The ego is nothing more than a hurdle that we need to overcome. In Gnosticism, we learn, and I think the introduction to Gnosticism touches upon this, but the importance of eliminating the ego in order to free the essence, that little bit of soul that's trapped in each one of those egos, so that we have more of ourselves present, so that we can continue to move forward and actually awaken. When we talk about awakening consciousness, it's not just, hey, I'm going to be a better person. Rather, I'm going to pursue that which exists within me, which can allow me to be that better person. Because my essence isn't evil. My essence doesn't criticize. My essence isn't going to be envious, isn't going to covet, isn't going to be all these things. My essence exists. My essence is. And my essence is pure and is innocent and wants to return to that point where the inner being, our divine father, and our essence are one. And that is what we really aspire to achieve, with the understanding that you're not going to do it all at once. It isn't just, hey, you know what? Today I am now awoken. I am now, a divine being, et cetera, et cetera. But rather, it's a recognition that the possibility, the capability of achieving that exists within us. We just need to do the work. And Gnosticism, the Gnostic doctrine, especially in its current form, in the modern form that the Venerable Master Samael brought to the masses, is sort of that roadmap that hey, you're going to be able to achieve this awakening, and this is how we do it. But it's not a negation in any way, shape, or form of any of the world's religious or any of the other occult or metaphysical doctrines that exist, but rather I would almost say a challenge to each one of us individually to pursue that reality within us by actually doing the work. Astral travel, I'm sure you've talked and discussed and attempted to, lucid dreaming in order to achieve. That's just a tool that we need in order to ascend to that other plane of reality where we can be more in contact and more in touch with those divine spiritual beings that can guide us, that can help us along our path. So again, Gnosticism doesn't try to negate or take away. More than anything, it tries to bring about a consensus, to bring about a synthesis, as the Venerable Master would call it, a synthesis of all of this knowledge that exists in the world, in order to help us speed us along, because ultimately, our time is going to run out. The time that we have here in the physical plane and the times that we're allowed to come to this physical plane is going to run out. There's a point where we have to begin to pay our karma. We have to, sort of pay down that debt. At some point, we are going to be judged, and hey, it's time for you to clean yourself up, because you're not going to come back to source so long as you have all this ego and all this karma. We need to start to pay down that debt and clean you up so that you can once again rejoin harmoniously with the rest of creation, or the unmanifested creation. So we choose Gnosticism, presents us the option or the ability to choose to do that willingly, purposefully. No, it's not easy. It's simple. But you understand that it's not easy. It's not easy to just work with the chakras to awaken the senses of the soul, right? It isn't easy to sit down and to meditate and to do a long meditation in order to discover yourself, in order to discover all those things about you that you may not want to look at, but you need to, so that you can actually change, so that you can grow, so that you can be that better person that you want to be and that you feel that need to be. I'm going to pause here for a second and ask if there, so far, if there are any questions, comments, any doubts, or anything that you'd like clarification on, and also to allow Edith and Isis to jump in and add anything if they want.
Well, first of all, thank you for everything that you're saying, because I've always, well, I can't say I'm always, but all throughout my adult years, and when I was studying spirituality, I was aware of Gnosticism, but I thought it was like dead. I thought it was like something from the ancients, that when they had that Council of Nicaea, and Gnosticism was not the chosen group. The other group was, I can't remember what it was, off the top of my head. But they were, then what we consider now as Roman Catholicism, that was the group that led from that point on. So now knowing that Gnosticism has been around since then, it's just been somewhere else and not here. And thank you for bringing up, I can't remember her, Madame Morosky, what was her name?
Blavatsky.
Blavatsky, yes. Thank you for bringing her back up, because all during that time period with all of that new thought, with those new thought individuals, that was that a new spiritual essence that came back. So to know that Gnosticism came here, but I'm really just rediscovering it now, with, I guess, within this last 5 years or so. And since Sakina came in, I did not know that there were Gnostics around. So this is really great information, and really also something that just kind of proves your point of that we are evolving into that thing that we are, where all truth and life emerges, and that we are all coming back to that, so this is fantastic for me. That was not my question. Y'all will, after you get to know me, you know that I'm very long-winded.
Oh, no problem. Not a problem.
So I would like to talk about a little bit about reincarnation.
Absolutely.
That, what you're mentioning, that all souls continuously reincarnate. So how do, and I know we burn off karma. I know that we that we plant new seeds of karma that we want to explore, in that next realm. So, my thing is I'm not coming back here. This is it for me. This is it. So well, how do we get to that point? How do we get to that point?
So again, well, part of it is, eliminating the ego. That's at least we have to begin to eliminate the ego. That's step one. Why? Because so long as we have the ego, and I'll go back and explain something, but before I do that, Edith, do you guys want to jump in anything at all, or should I just?
I'll let you go, but
okay.
When go ahead.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. And we can look to the Hindus, to Hinduism, and also Buddhism. Excuse me for this, but this so there's this there's certain laws that are part of being in this third dimensional physical world. Okay, one of them is return, and as I said before, to reincarnate, to get to that point, a person has to have awoken their consciousness, to achieved enlightenment, we could say, so that they are no longer bound by karmic laws to have to return in specific circumstances or conditions because of karmic reasons. So that's one. to sort of overcome that return. But as I said, we look to the Buddhists, we look to the Hindus. We can look to the wheel of samsara, this wheel of reincarnation. That hey, you're going to come back. So you learn the lessons that you need to learn. You're going to come back, and every time you come back, you're going to be placed in a different economic circumstance, with a different set of families, with different friends, different job, et cetera, et cetera. There are things that are going to repeat because of those karmic debts that we have. Like, for example, if I did something that was very atrocious to an individual, right? There's so many things that a person could do. And because I did this thing, whatever it was, I stole their family home by cheating them out of it or whatever. In the next existence, I'm going to have to pay for that. So I may have my home stolen from me. Now, if I hadn't done that, when I came back, when I returned, I may have been able to have been born in a nicer neighborhood, or in a better, in a country that's not in the middle of a war, or not experience famine, et cetera, et cetera. But because I did this one act, now I've changed my fate, my destiny in a negative way. So how do we do, as you said, how do you make it better, right? How do I plant these positive seeds? By doing good things, one, and by not doing bad things. So there's one interesting thing about karma. We don't just get karma, or we don't acquire karmic debt for the bad things that we do, but for the good things that we didn't do, even if we could, which is interesting. Because a lot of times we may not necessarily do something that's wrong, but we avoid doing something that's right. The more right things that we do, the more charitable that we are, the more understanding that we can be. Those are all things that eventually allow us to accumulate. We could call it a positive karmic debt, or dharma. We could call it dharma. And that's going to change the conditions under which we reincorporate ourselves in the next existence. We might be better off, or we might be able to, the best would be to learn or reincorporate ourselves into our spiritual path sooner, when we're younger, because that gives us more time to continue to do the right thing. A lot of people, and this is not just when we're trying to find something spiritual, metaphysical, or otherwise, but even people who find religion, sometimes they don't find it until later in life. Well, if you find it later in life, how many years or how much time do you have to actually be that good person, to put into practice all of those tenets, all of those commandments, et cetera, et cetera? You don't get that much time. You're still going to, and you're going to do some of it, and you're going to be able to better prepare yourself for your next existence. But if you start earlier, if you're able to start at a younger time, if divinity allows you to encounter spirituality in a younger point in your life and allow it to be a bigger influence, you have much more time to be that spiritual person, to try to achieve an even higher level of consciousness, a higher level of spirituality. If we continue that trend through existences, then eventually we'll be able to, be born into circumstances that are going to allow us to explore spirituality or attain an even higher later level of enlightenment earlier. We'll learn how to meditate earlier in our lives. We'll learn how to work with our chakras earlier in our life. And more importantly, we will remember, or we'll be allowed to remember, the work that we did previously. I'm going to venture and say that most of us, most of the people on this call, have had past life experiences where we've experienced something that has occurred to us, whether it's through meditation or mantralization or working with the Tibetan singing bowl or whatever, or even an astral experience, where we've managed to see what happened previously. And that awakens something within us where we have this memory, we have this moment of epiphany. Ah, I remember this. This resonates within me. I don't know what this is necessarily, but I know that it resonates within me. If we were to able to remember or have that moment earlier in our existences, in a future existence, then we're opening up, we're setting ourselves up for success, and we're opening up the possibility to awaken even more incrementally through each existence. I hope that answers your question a bit.
I'm muted. Yes, yes, it did. It, it helped me out because, reincarnation, it just simply makes sense.
Right.
Why would we be here?
Right.
The most that we can be here is like 120 years. And how can you get it right in 120 years?
It's very, you can, and there are those that do, but they are very rare.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, reincarnation just makes sense. I mean, especially if there is a loving God,
Yes, exactly.
you can't, I can't assume that there is a loving God that will send me to hell for eternity because in 30 years, I didn't get it right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
But I'm
and
giving
so
you a chance to try and course correct.
Yes.
If I may add one thing that I think is kind of important is you hear sometimes people saying, well, I'll get it better the next time. And that's one of the little pitfalls, I think, with reincarnation, is that if you in your mind think, well, okay, I did it this time like this, next time I'll do it better. It's not going to happen that way with reincarnation, from my understanding and from what I have experienced. It's important to realize that I'm going to do and be the best I possibly can be in this lifetime with the time I have to the best of my ability. And if I come back, I choose to come back and I've done it all right this lifetime, then it's going to be better. But if I leave this lifetime with the attitude of, well, I'll get it better the next time, it doesn't happen that way. So that's one thing that I think is important for people to be aware of. And that's one of the things that I think, Ahmed, you were mentioning when you said, you may not do something right because you're tempted to do something else, but then you don't do that. And that's one of those little pitfalls, I think, with the reincarnation, from what I understand.
No, and you're absolutely right. There is a pitfall there. I'm trying to remember the anecdote of if it was Venerable Master Samael or the Venerable Master Rebelu. But the gist was, hey, you have to live today like it's your last day. Like you're on your way out. The judges of karma are waiting for you, and they're waiting to pass judgment and to sink you out, down to the to Dante's Infernos. Because when you live like that, you're going to worry about, hey, you know what, my time's running out. I need to do something. I need to not, and that's one thing that the Venerable Master Samael was very adamant about. It's you have to do something with your life. You can theorize all you want. You can become very erudite. You can learn all of the mystic books. You can learn all of the practices, everything. If you never put it into practice, if you never actually do something with it, then what was the point of gaining all that knowledge if you're just going to store it, right? If you're not going to live better, try to awaken your consciousness, try to do a meditative practice, put into use your chakras, awaken them so that the senses of your soul can come into function again. Why did you learn to do all that stuff if you're not gonna use it? I relate that to a passage or a quote from Bruce Lee, where he said, "I don't fear the guy that knows 1,000 techniques and has only practiced it once. I fear the guy that knows one technique and has practiced it 1,000 times." That to me encapsulates the gist of spirituality. And why, to me, it makes sense that throughout the world, throughout our societies and our cultures, we have had this message presented to us so many different ways in so many different languages with so many different examples that relate to each society and culture specifically so that they can get it, so that we can get it. Because that's the one interesting thing about this, right? If we're talking about return, reincarnation, etc. We've not just been here as we are now. We've been everywhere in so many different circumstances that it doesn't make sense to, you know what, I'm not going to, consider that what the, what the Norse say, with their pantheon of gods, or what the Greeks or the Japanese with their pantheon, et cetera, et cetera. Or we're moving on into religions themselves, the Muslims, the Christians, the Jews, et cetera, et cetera. All of that religious knowledge and those, mainly the texts, have everything that was needed by those people at that time in order to achieve what they needed to achieve, what we all need to achieve, right? And we've all participated in some way, shape, or form in different civilizations, cultures, at different times, at different points in history. I'm sure that in this group, if I said, hey, what culture or what society or what time and place do you feel drawn to? And even the nicest know this, that to me, the Japanese culture, the culture of the samurai, really have drawn me. Why? Because there is a point in my previous existences where that's where I was. So I'm drawn to that. I think all of us have something similar, right?
Yes.
I hope so.
Yes.
So that should tell us that, hey, if I, in a previous existence, participated in this society, of this culture, what were the spiritual texts or tenets that were around? How does that draw me in? Like, what resonates with me there? Because something absolutely should, and should help us understand, okay, I haven't just been here this one time.
Mhm.
To the point that you made, of a benevolent God, of a loving God, yes, but also a just God. So, and when you study the tree of life, right, and we have the Sephiroth, and we have the three paths, right? We have the path on the left, we have the path on the right, then we have the path in the middle. And the path on the right, and I apologize, I would need to see my diagram, my chart, but you have one that represents justice, and you have the other that represents benevolence, love, mercy, however you want to name it. And you really need both of those to balance each other out. Because if you have just justice, absolute justice, with no mercy, then you end up with tyranny. And I can't accept that our creator is tyrannical. The opposite is also true. If we only have love, mercy, and benevolence, then you have a God that is an accomplice to all of the things that we do that are wrong. And I just can't accept that that's also true, that we can get away with everything that we do to other people and yet still say that I am as them and I should treat them as myself without any consequence whatsoever if I don't treat them that way at all. So those two aspects balance each other out and creates that path through the middle that gives us that balance that allows the fool to one day become the master. So there is that balance. And that really is one of the themes the Venerable Master Sawtelle wanted to, share with the masses and say, you have to be a balanced individual. Even within the pursuit of your consciousness, of your inner being, your awakening, you have to be balanced about it. You have to be a tempered soul. Because again, if the only thing you do is say, I'm going to only concentrate and focus and achieve my own spirituality, where is your humanity? How do you give back? So there are three things that the Venerable Master Samael teaches, or summarizes, synthesizes our spiritual path with, and says there's three factors to the revolution of consciousness: death, rebirth, and sacrifice for humanity. Now they're all allegorical, they're all symbolical, but death in the ego, birth in our virtues, and sacrifice for humanity is not necessarily, I'm going to go be a martyr. I'm going to stand in front of a bulldozer as it tries to take down a forest, but rather I am going to sacrifice my selfishness, sacrifice my egoic impulses in order to be the benevolent and spiritual and giving person that my brethren deserve. I recognize that I am as you, and therefore I will treat you as I wish to be treated. This should sound really, really similar. Bells should be going off. Hey, Ahmed's talking about the golden rule.
Yeah, it's
And that's
only
what
one
it
truth.
is.
Yeah, it's only one truth. Yeah. Hey, Forrest, and hi, Andre. I'm glad you can make it. Forrest, Harry, do you all have any questions or comments that you all want to bring up at this time?
I'm just loving everything I'm listening to at this moment.
I'm
Perfect.
just soaking it all up.
Okay, cool.
Well, that's, hey, as
I do have one question, I guess.
yes,
I just cannot accept the fact that there is a God that rains down holy terror on those who err. Am I off base there?
say that part again. It broke up a little bit. You can't accept what?
I cannot accept the fact that there's a God out there that rains down terror on those of us that err in some way or another.
So
And my question is, am I wrong to feel that way?
So I will answer that in the following way, because it's not so much that the creator has said, hey, you know what, you made a mistake, so now I'm going to make you suffer just for the purposes of suffering. That's not it. That goes back to that tyranny that I was talking about earlier. But and this is going to go into one of our topics that's called the ray of creation. And if you're studying Kabbalah and the tree of life, this will make sense. I promise you, it will make sense. So when we study the different emanations with the Ein Sof, we have the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof Aur, right? We have those different emanations, those unfoldings of creation until we get here to the material plane. And all of that is generated from source. When we are created, when we are released from source, from the absolute, from that plane of unmanifested energy of which we are a part of and participate, we descend down, right? We're making our way to here for the purposes of learning, experiencing, so that one day we can return back to source. So let me ask this. Can we go back to source, carrying all of the emotional, psychological, karmic, et cetera, all that baggage that we've accumulated here or done here on this physical plane? Your thoughts?
No, we can't. We can't go
Why?
back. Because
Why couldn't we?
because we came as pure energy, and there have been certain entrapments here by certain individuals throughout humanity that have allowed us to forget how our divinity and our connection with the one. I don't know exactly how to explain it,
I get the gist. I get the gist.
but that's what I'm saying. We can't go back. We have to let go of all of that, all those trappings, so that we can go back pure, as pure energy.
So I will explain a little bit more with regards to our ego. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Andre. If you do not know me, hi, how are you?
Hi, Andre. It's nice to meet you.
You too. It's good to meet everyone. I'm sorry I'm coming in a little late, but
Not
I
at all.
caught that part, and what you were just saying, it was kind of a conversation that I was actually having yesterday with a couple other of our group members, which was in A Course of Miracles. And I asked a question that, did creation create us to experience, to bring us back that experience, so it itself can understand itself as being
Yes.
creation?
Yes. 100% yes. But not just to know itself, to recognize and understand its happiness. And that part is very, very important. It's so extremely important, and it's very, very subtle that I almost feel like at our level, at least at my level, I'll talk about myself, that I get it. I get the abstract notion, but I know that I don't completely understand the whole of it, right? But I want, so before we go on, and before I finish answering Harriet's question, you're right, 100%. But there's a little more to it, obviously, because it's not just, it's the choosing that happiness. Okay. If we're doing, and to an extent, I hate using these words good and evil, because they have a certain connotation to it.
Yeah.
But we have to recognize that there is good, that there is evil. The reason why I hesitate sometimes to use those words is because an evil person can do a good deed, and a good person can do an evil deed, right? That's just the nature of duality. And that, however, encapsulates what our ego is capable of doing when we are not aware. When we aren't paying attention, our ego sneaks in and says, hey, essence, I have you captured, I have you trapped, we're just going to do what I want. And what does the ego want to do? I'll be very honest with you. It wants to siphon our creative energy in any way, shape, or form. Why? Because the ego, that part of our subconsciousness, that is what is responsible for what we would call our evil acts, whatever, has a time limit. It cannot go back. And this goes to answering Harriet's question. Our ego is our own artificial manufactured creation. We did that. It's not from a divine source. It isn't part of the divinity that our essence soul participates in. It is of a nature that is incompatible once we begin to ascend to those higher levels of creation with the vibration, the energy that exists there. It cannot be allowed to exist. It cannot be allowed to enter. So there has to be a mechanism, something that if we do not eliminate our ego and free our consciousness, that will do that for us. And therein comes the pain and suffering and the having to go through the circles of Dante's Inferno. But it isn't eternity. I want to clarify. That isn't an eternal damnation. That's just, we need to clean you up so that you can once again return to that state, that primordial state of innocence in which you as a soul as an essence, as a purified entity, can then participate once again in those higher levels of creation.
Hmm.
That's what that is about. However, if you talk to a Christian that only believes in what the word and what the Bible, like the absolute dead word that's on a printed paper, you sinned, you're going to hell. That's it. Goodbye. Later. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. There is a time at the end of our existences, time that we exhausted our opportunities to inhabit and incorporate a physical being, a human body, in which we're going to have to descend. That doesn't last forever. No, it's not fun. It is necessary. But once that's done, then we are able to once again participate, and we begin to reconquer our state as a human being. So if you study the wheel of samsara, there are epochs, there are phases in that wheel where you reincarnate, or your soul is attached to a physical being that's not a human body. First, it goes through the mineral kingdom. And this is really, really important when we talk about elementals, and why we should be kind to nature, but
Right.
we'll leave that aside.
Well, no, well, please, by all means, let's not leave that to a side. I mean, with what you're saying, can I ask a question on what you're saying when it comes to our physical being? I understand that we're speaking of consciousness and ego, which puts where we are as a physical manifestation, as a sentient being, that puts us in the middle where, like you were speaking, I hate that, to use the word Malakut, as far as a plane, or just a destination where we are, or even to say that it is Eden, if it's a holy point of view. So we are in a nature's plane. So cause and effect does have laws, rules, regulations,
Yes.
so what we do does relate to the physical point on what we're saying, correct?
Yes. So with Malkut, right? We're talking about we could say the beginning of our journey back up, right? And that's related to the physical plane, and it's also related to our physical body. So when we study Kabbalah, when we study the Tree of Life, we study it. It's associated not just with the 22 major arcana of the tarot. It's not just the 10 Sephiron, the values, but it's also it's the three triad. Well, the fourth one isn't the third one isn't really a triad because it includes the four, but it's the three logos at the top. Then you have the middle box, right? Then you have what we would consider the lower four dimensions, the lower four planes, of which Malkuth is the physical plane where we manifest. And this is where our journey begins. And when we relate it to the tarot, this is where the fool's journey began. Again, fool not because he's dumb, but because they're innocent.
Because they're innocent, correct.
Right. So, but with that said, within that, there is not just we show up, we emanate, and we're here. The first go around, yes. But then what happens when we exhaust? So are you all familiar with the beads of the Buddha, the 108 beads?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that they represent, each one of those represents an existence, a material existence in which we occupy a physical body as a human being. Perfect. What happens once you're done with those 108 existences? Is that endgame?
No.
No, because at the end of that, unless if you have consciously returned to source, which there are those who have, they've done their due diligence, we'll say, and they've reconquered themselves. They've reincorporated themselves with their own divinity, all aspects thereof, of which there are multiple. If you do that, you have returned to source and you have ascended to those higher planes of creation, you're good. If you haven't, even if you're free of your ego, you might not necessarily be free of your karma.
Hmm.
So what happens with that karma? Is it just a clean slate? Hey, you can come on. You can't just go back up because of balance. Cause and effect. If you do something that kicks the whole of creation out of balance, or at least your personal creation out of balance, it has to be readjusted. Therein comes why we have to do this process of going through those nine infernal dimensions in order to be purified of whatever, whatever it is that we have to get rid of, so that our essence can be scrubbed clean. Interestingly enough, we don't do that journey by ourselves. There is an aspect of divinity that accompanies us always.
I hate to be the party pooper,
Yes.
but it is me. It is, it is my job to be the timekeeper.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I know that you have a part 2. And, and I really don't want us to miss anything.
No.
So if you all don't, just, y'all know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's me. Somebody's got to be the mom.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say, the one aspect that accompanies us through our entire journey is our divine mother, Kundalini. She is with us every step of the way, the divine feminine. So we should always thank our mom and our physical mom as well. But so I hope, however, that and thank you for keeping time. I swear, like, I looked at the clock 2 minutes ago and it was 7:45, and now it's like we're past. So, but Harriet, I hope that begins to explain a little bit of why, why this process exists. It isn't tyrannical. It isn't without reason. And as Andre said, there is always cause and effect. The majority of the time, however, what we see is the effect, and we don't necessarily understand the cause, which is why it's important, I think, for all of us at some point to sit down and really, to do a meditation and to really dig deep and say, especially when it comes to the things that happen to us, it's like, do I deserve this? 9 times out of 10, our ego is going to be like, no, we don't, not at all. However, if we dig a little bit deeper and we begin to comprehend, but I don't necessarily know everything that exists within my own subconscious, maybe I do. Maybe I do. So I hope that begins to clarify.
Wonderful.
No, thank you all for having. I'm sorry, I think I feel like I hijacked this whole thing. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you'll get used to us. You'll get used to us,
He is one of
we
our
always speak our mind. We always speak our mind.
Wonderful.
And
No,
there's
absolutely
no problem. But I know you said that you had a part 2, and
yes,
you were gonna,
throw it over to Edith.
I'm all about girl power, so I'm waiting for my ladies to step up. Come
Yes,
on, y'all.
no.
Come on, y'all. So yeah, whatever your part 2 is, we're ready. And
All
thank
right.
you so much. I'm y'all. You're coming back, right? You're coming back.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This has been wonderful. And we'll definitely make sure to invite you all to the classes that we do as well. Well, depending on we don't want to interfere with what you all do, but I think Edith is going to give you a preview of some of the stuff that we do on the sort of on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna go next, and then let Isis give you guys all the details. I applaud you, ladies and gentlemen. This is amazing. This is what we live for. Like we cannot believe that we every now and then we find this, minds that are alike, and it just makes us all giddy, because it is so hard. I've been a Gnostic since I was 8 years old, when my parents introduced, the whole family to Gnosticism. And ever since then, it's been a journey. So that Isis, she's my daughter, so she was born into it as well. And so it's a family business, right?
Good.
It's a spiritual business to us. It is really, I really don't have words to explain to you, and I probably won't be able to truly explain how different to me Gnosticism is. And I mean, I've gone through, other churches. I come from a very, very Catholic family. Like my grandparents, all my relatives, and some on one side of the family, they are all Catholic, and on the other side of the family, they are all evangelics. So we are exposed to everything. But something that has happened very recently, and this started happening with the pandemic. My relatives, whenever my parents talk to them about Gnosticism, and I'm bringing this up because Penelope, do you go by Penelope or Penny? Okay, she said, I never heard about Gnosticism. I thought it died with many, many years ago. But I guess the thing is that Gnosticism has been around forever. But to us, I think we feel very lucky, because Master Samael, because he was Spanish speaking, he tried to spread the knowledge mainly in the Spanish speaking countries. So he did a pilgrimage from Colombia all the way up to Mexico, and then the United States and Canada, trying to spread the knowledge. And the United States was probably the last place where the knowledge has been given to, probably only within the last, I'm going to say 20 years, that has become available. And we have been some of the pioneers, which I feel extremely blessed to have had all this knowledge, because my parents were also very, very lucky to have actually met the master, his wife, which was also a master, and having the knowledge, firsthand is a completely different situation. Because now the books, we have a lot of books. We have 80 plus books that he wrote, and there's a little tweaks here and there, but just having that knowledge firsthand has been an amazing thing for us. But what I also wanted to share with you guys is that at the end of the pandemic, most of my relatives kept asking my family, how come you guys, some of them would say, how come you guys don't feel, this so afraid? How come, you see things and you're expecting things to just work out? Things are going to work out. Because in the middle of the pandemic, we were still doing conferences. We actually do conferences, Gnostic conferences. We go everywhere, and that's how we were so lucky to meet Sakina. And we go to all extents to try to bring people into, but it's very hard because not everybody wants to know what you guys know. this is not it, this isn't it, that you don't get to do whatever you want and then I'm gonna die anyways. It doesn't work that way. Right? It's also all our actions do have consequences, and a lot of people don't want to know that. They don't want to realize that, if I do harm onto someone, it's coming back. Sooner or later it's coming back. So all those different circumstances that we put ourselves through, if we had a little bit of knowledge, if we had a little bit of consciousness accompanied, then we would live different lives. And most people feel, well, not everybody, but I've noticed that throughout my years in the Gnostic studies, a lot of people come to the studies. A lot of people join in the classes, but then they feel like meditation, that's too boring, takes too long. Oh my God, clearing my chakras, I don't want to be chanting for an hour. Everybody wants to do something once and everything is done. And it doesn't work like that way. Unfortunately, spirituality is a lifelong commitment. But we have a whole life to do it, right? So we as Gnostic students, because I can't consider myself a Gnostic because I'm still learning. Day after day, we still learn. And none of the all of the books, all of the sacred books that we have in existence have Gnosis in them. So we use the Bible, we use the Torah, we use every single book that is a sacred book. There's knowledge in them. So as Ahmed said, it's not this is a religion. Yeah, it is a religion, but it's a religion that encompasses all of the religions. So it's more spiritual than just dogma. So we have some, we have classes online, we have classes, conferences. And as a matter of fact, I know that you, Sakina, are in near Yogaville, right?
Yes.
Well, I was talking to Herbert this yesterday morning, and I said, remember last year we were going to do a trip to Yogaville, and what we do is we would go because Gnosticism is not just literature. We do have meditation, but we also practice runes, which is a vocabulary. It's a you guys already know about them, I'm pretty sure. Well,
Nordic roots it's of Nordic roots.
Nordic roots, yes. When we do that, then we just energize our body. We do that every day. We try to do that every day as well. But when we go, like when we're gonna go in May to Yogaville, we do a whole day where we get together, all minds alike, and we start the day with runes, and then we do meditation, and then we do a conference that has, so many different topics. We talk about chakras, we talk about conscious awakening, we talk about astral travel, we talk about everything that you guys already know, but it is a day full with spirituality. So I'm going to let Isis just give you guys a little bit more on, because she's also one of the instructors that we have. We have a total of 11 instructors, but most of them are Spanish speaking. We have very little English speaking. We have Ahmed, Edward, Isis, and who else? That's it, right?
That's about it.
But when is
Oscar.
your conference in May? When is your conference in May?
We were thinking we either gonna have it on May the 6th or the Saturday of the Memorial Day.
That's like at the end of the month, right?
Yeah, so we were gonna either do it at the beginning or at the end, because
Okay.
in
So
between
let us know, because we were going to meet at Sakina's one day anyway. So this might be a good, love fest.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. That will be
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So like my mom said, the Gnosticism has sort of been in our family for quite some time. I entered the Gnostic studies when I was probably around the same age that my mom entered, around like 8 or 9. And I think for me, part of the reason why I ended up staying with it for as long as I have is because I was sort of given the chance when I was younger to explore different religions. That was one thing that my mom wanted to make sure I had exposure to before I committed to wanting to continue on in my studies in Gnosticism. So I had friends that were Muslim, and I would, study the Quran with them on Saturdays and on Fridays. And so I got some exposure to that. I had a friend that was Baptist, and she took me to her church, and we sang choir, and we, did Bible study on the weekends. I went to Catholic school by the house. So I got my share of studying all these different religions. And ultimately, once I did hit, 16, I sort of made that decision for myself that, this is something that I can relate to a lot. It makes more sense in my day-to-day. And I feel like with Gnosticism, I don't have to make a choice on any one particular religion. I get the chance to study them all, make my comparisons, because ultimately I believe that all religions have one core root. And that's what Gnosticism basically builds off of. And one quote that I believe in very heavily, and it's a quote that I believe the Master Sawtelle said, and it says, all religions are precious pearls strung on the golden thread of divinity. That has been a quote that has stuck with me for so long, because that is very true. They're all one, essentially. You just have to make the effort to try to find what that root is between all of them, because that is the truth. That is the core beliefs of all the different religions. So eventually I just continued on my studies. And one of the issues I had was my first language is English. And as my mom said, the teachings were very heavy in Spanish. So all the instructors spoke Spanish, all the books were in Spanish. And while I did have my parents that spoke English, they were able to translate a lot of that stuff for me. But there was still that level of confusion. Certain words didn't translate properly. And it wasn't until I went to one of the international conventions in Canada. This was in 2016, 2015, something along those lines. I had, made the trip out to Canada to meet other Gnostics from around the world. And that was when I met a lot of English speaking Gnostics, and it just opened the floodgates for me to all of their resources, all of their books. And that really put my studies into high gear, because now I had a whole community of people that I could reach out to, people that were my age, mentors, different things like that. And at the time, we had a lot of young kids that would come to our center out in Richmond. And they were all in the same boat that I was a few years ago, where the language barrier was very difficult. So at the time, I was an English instructor for the youth. And so that really got me more in tune with the studies. And I got to dive into some of those topics that I hadn't really learned about before, or I probably didn't understand quite as well because of that language barrier. So where I'm going with that is, because of the fact that for the most part, studies were in Spanish, there's a whole community that are kind of left in the dark, not knowing, similar to the story that Penelope said of, well, I didn't even know that that existed. And it's because a lot of the outreach was for Spanish speakers. And now that we've entered into this new digital age and we are able to connect different people that want to learn about Gnosticism, we have the instructors that both speak English and speak English and Spanish. Now we're able to bridge some of those gaps. And my role now has sort of been in making sure that we do as much outreach to people that speak English and Spanish. So we created a website, and on the website we have all of the digitized text in both English and Spanish, so that anybody who wants to read the books have access to them. I commend you guys for starting out with the introduction to Gnosis. When I was given that book, I don't even remember how old I was, maybe 12. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't stand it and I couldn't understand it. There was so much to understand. There was so much to absorb, but I was really young, so I didn't know what to do with all of that. And I remember having that conversation with someone at a convention and saying, I don't know why the master thought that was going to be the book to introduce people with. It can be very intimidating. And my recommendation was always to start out with the revolution of psychology. I am a huge fan of psychology. I love that aspect. And he touches upon a lot of things that are very relatable to just the average Joe. And so when I went back and I read that book, nowadays, I recommend people to always start out with that book because I think it's very friendly and it touches a lot of the introduction topics without overwhelming people right out the gate. Yes.
We did do that book.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, then we went to the introduction because I'd asked Herbert at one of the gatherings what would be another good book to start with, and he's the one that gave me the introduction and that. But I know when first time I went to the gathering, I was the only English person there.
Yes.
Which was kind of strange. And it was good that there were people who speak English.
Yes. So our English community is small, at least in this area, right?
Growing. But growing.
But growing. We have a lot of people in different areas around the world. And because of the Zoom classes, it's really been able to unite everyone. So, you can be in Arizona, you can be in Florida, you can be in California, you can be in New York. And if you don't have a community nearby, hey, guess what? There's a community online that you have access to and you have those resources from them. So we ended up having a website during COVID. We filmed a lot of introduction videos, a lot of very open, very public classes where we talk about the law of karma, where we talk about what is Gnosis, where we talk about those 3 steps that Ahmed mentioned earlier of the, death of the ego, the elimination of the ego, the birthing of the virtues, and the sacrifice for humanity. We touch upon those things. They're relatively short videos, so that if someone were to ever come across them or was curious about Gnosis, they have those resources. And those are on YouTube, open to the public. We have about 20 videos in English and about 35 videos in Spanish. But those resources are there. And we want to make sure that if you guys are passionate, if you guys are interested in these studies, we want to make sure those resources are available to you guys. And, we as instructors, I don't want to classify myself as an instructor. I have such a long way to go to be there. But some of our, veteran instructors, we're all here to provide that support. If you guys have questions, if you want to bounce ideas, if you want to have one of those conversations that maybe other people might not understand, that's what we're here for. And we have runic classes just about every day where we do they're kind of yoga practices, as my mother mentioned, to kind of help capture energy, sustain our energy, strengthen our willpower. Different runic exercises are for different things to help us in our day-to-day life. And then the class is split between a runic practice and the other half is a meditation practice. And we all do that collectively from our own homes, all through Zoom. We have 2 different English classes that we teach during the week. One is for beginners and it's on Saturdays in the afternoon. Another one is on Thursday, and that's more for a little bit more advanced students. So these resources.
Advanced and current.
Huh?
Advanced student, like current members and those that have kind
And
of
those
gone
that are a
far,
little bit more
the
advanced,
beginner
right?
and all the way through. Yep.
Right.
Sorry to jump in.
So, no, you're good. But yeah, all of those resources are available to you guys. We have events just about, I want to say just about every month in different states, different cities, to reach out to people, to find more Sakimas out in the world, more people that are interested and that don't know it exists. So that is what I wanted to jump in and at least mention. So I want to thank you guys for inviting us to join your group today and kind of spread the word. And if anybody is interested, you know, our doors are always open. So thank you for this.
I wanted to ask, Penelope, are you in Richmond or are you in a different state?
Well, I'm in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Okay.
And Andre is in Yorktown, and Harriet is in Newport News, and Forrest is in Atlanta, Georgia.
We're all over the place. I love it.
I asked
Yeah.
because our main temple was in Richmond. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have a temple, but we do the classes in you know, the conferences in hotels. So this year we were trying to figure out, do we go back to Richmond or do we go to Virginia Beach or, you know, an area closer to that area? So I see that it's probably going to be something in that area. We will be more than happy to have you all come and join us, and it'll be great to have, you know, 2 families like meeting, 2 new families meeting.
It will be.
It would be amazing because as my daughter was saying, we have tried to engage the English speaking community. And you know, we try. We even had last year, I think it was last year, for a year or a year and a half or so, I can remember. We even had a Saturday broadcast in Fox. And people were interested, you know, but nothing happened. You know, they liked the content. They were sending messages to the TV station, but you know, it didn't grow like we were expecting it. So we continue every month. We continue going out there. We on April the 30th, we're gonna go to Pennsylvania and we're gonna have a conference out there. In New York, you know, we have a conference also in October. So we try, and you know, we'll be delighted to, you know, one day hopefully have you join us as well. And thank you for inviting us. I know Ahmed was doing most of the presentation, but he's very good at it.
Yeah, he is. I mean, all of y'all are fantastic. Well, you know, it's 8:27. I know we said we want to stop at 8:30, but you know, I just, you know, I really want to open this up for, you know, question answer period, or you know, we have some other discussion. And I'm going to start off with this. I had a really, really hard time with the guy, you know, because we started off with the treaty of psychology. I read the first paragraph of the introduction and I wanted to throw the book at the wall. You know,
I know exactly what you mean.
I had a difficult time understanding him as an author. you know, and I'm trying, you know, although many of the things that he said, I'm in alignment with anyway. You know, truth is simply truth.
Right.
And I understand that, you know, we are all individualized aspects, but we do live in these personalities. We do live in these bodies. You know, we are going to express through them where we are at this time. And I know that, you know, from the books, it seems like it was from the early to mid 60s. And that was a different time period, you know, actually. So you got to put all of those things into account. But I had a really, really hard time. I told Sakina, I said, we got to get a break off this guy right here. We got to take a break from him. I'm about to have a book burning. So, but I am glad to meet like-minded people to balance it, you know, to bounce ideas back off of, and you know, so that you all, and like you said, and Sakina often said, it was written at, you know, it's written at a different time, written in a different language, so we don't have the fullness of it. So it's good to meet people who, you know, first of all, I appreciate you, Isis, when you said, you know, you had a hard time. Why did we start off with this book? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
this is very challenging.
Yeah.
I saw you getting excited. Okay, she knows what I mean.
But it's good to be able to meet people to help me understand that path, because, you know, it's so in alignment with where I am, and so in alignment with what we do here at Inner Haven, you know. So I just wanted to appreciate it. And so that really wasn't a question. I guess that was more of a comment. How about Andre, Forrest, Harriet? Y'all have any questions or comments in particular? Y'all don't mind, you know, going a little bit over time, do you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
not at all.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me, you know, letting us run over in time. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If Isis could just give us the website, that would be good.
Oh, yes. Would it make sense for me to put the website in the group chat, or I can also send it to Sakina and then you guys can have it as well, but I'll put it in the Zoom chat so you can
Okay.
pull it. Work? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I'll also put the YouTube channel there as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Very quickly, Penelope.
Mhm.
And nowadays, the book that you got has gone through like at least 4 different
Revisions.
revisions. The first ones that were translated, you probably would have just pulled your hair out.
Yeah.
Because the people that translated it were using, honestly, a dictionary.
Yeah.
And so the words make you would read a sentence, it made no sense at all. So because I had read it in Spanish, and I would be like, huh? So now they have tried to make it more Americanized,
Reader
but
friendly.
it's still quite you know, quite ways away from being easily understood. And there's another thing that you need to understand when it comes to Master Samael. One day, hopefully, you'll be able to just look it up, because I don't think any of his videos are translated. Are they, Amen?
So there are some, but so with Stalin the other day, he sent me a link on YouTube because the video wasn't complete, and I had to give him like the rest of the context. So there are some that are there, but even some of the ones that are there aren't complete, which is unfortunate, because it doesn't leave the you know, whoever's watching it with a full picture of what's being said. And sometimes, again, those translators that they use, you know, they're not that good. You miss some of the context, or even in Spanish. I'll say this, because we all have different dialects depending on where we're from. And because the Venerable Master Samael was Colombian, but moved to Mexico, his lexicon was, kind of a mix of both at times. So even for us, we're from, I'm Salvadorian, and sometimes I have a trouble like, okay, I have no idea what that, like, how do I interpret what that's saying? That's, so.
I
Their
will say that,
edition was even different than mine. I said their edition was even different than the one I had.
Right.
I will say that one of the resources that I found after going to a conference was Glorian Publishing.
Oh yeah, they're very good.
Glorian.org, and I put it in the chat. They have probably one of the best translations of the Master Samael's books.
And others.
And other authors as well. I actually have a whole collection. All of my books are from Glorian Publishings, just because it's a lot newer. It's actually, I can probably show you a book. So this is one of the Tarot and Kabbalah books. It's a much newer version of the book. The artwork I think is really nice, and the translations are also fair. Like just like the structure and the layout of the book, I find it a lot more appealing. I also bought a lot of books from some of the local, when we did have a temple, they would sell books as well from a different publisher, and that always seemed like the translations were very raw. There wasn't a clear translation to match that dialogue, that lexicon that Ahmed was talking about, to make it understandable. So I think their version of the introduction of Gnosis is also different from the ones that you guys probably had. But it does read a lot smoother. I think the translators that they had doing the job I can't commend them enough. They did a really good job.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
ever want any more books, I would definitely recommend Glorian Publishing, just based off of my experience alone.
Thank
Well,
you.
Yes.
in that standpoint, can I ask a question? Because we're speaking of a saint, I believe, right?
In a way, yes.
Okay. Well, in that way of speaking, that point of view, are we looking at this from that point of view that Gnosticism is still from the point of Aramaic? Because I know Gnosticism very few from that point of Aramaic writing, and for it to be transferred over, and I'm a historian, so are we now in that point where we're speaking of where still languages still were being broken up, dialects were still being held upon, certain things were being done. So as far as me and Penelope, for example, I know of Gnosticism. Like I say, I can speak of Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mhm.
And I understand that Catholicism does not, put that in cuneiform. So we're still speaking from a apocryphal point of view, from a political side of point of view.
So
But what we're learning right now, and what we're understanding right now, and what we're putting together right now is is it all saying the same thing? And do languages in that point in view die? Because as you all so eloquently put, this is something that is in a language that is a Spanish language, a conquistador language versus where I know this from the point of view of an English language, and it may seem a little bit rough when you read when you read the English text. So is it a difference? Because I didn't disagree with the author. I just felt that his abrupt nature of it
Um,
versus, so, speaking of that point of view where we're speaking of Aramaic, which is original language of Gnosticism, original language speaking that Jesus and everyone spoke, the abrupt part of English threw me off. But I did understand because of the English text. I did get where everything was coming from, but the abruptness. So is it reading from that point of view? I think that's what Penelope is asking from that history point of view. Is it that abrupt when we speak from those Gnostical parts or those apocryphal books? Are we speaking in a just way? Because we also do we're right now doing the Book of Enoch as well. So we want to go into, I'm hoping to be able to finish the Book of Enoch, and we go in the Book of Jubilees of these apocryphal books. Are these points of views that are incorporated? And it's the language that's lost.
Okay, I want to take that question, and hopefully I'll be able to answer this question. And I have a small paragraph that I'm going to read from the translation, because this is exactly what I want to make my point with. It says in here, the human being is very poor internally, and that is why he has a need for money and things for his own stimulation and personal satisfaction. When one is poor internally, externally, he seeks money and things to complete himself and to find satisfaction. Now, without any Gnostic knowledge or any prior information with regards to the ego, the eyes, or the way that Master Samael spoke, you would think, I would read this and I would think, this is really harsh. This is not something friendly for me to understand. What am I doing, or what am I supposed to do to improve my spiritual being, right? But Master Samael was not a person that sugar-coated things. And this is coming from me knowing a lot of people that were under his direct teaching. He was not someone that would be coming to you and say, hey, in order for you to, like the way we have to talk to a lot of people, we have to be very, very, very tactful.
He was blunt. Yeah.
Hmm?
I was going to say, he was blunt. He
Yes.
just said it as it is.
He
You
was.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm not asking as far as Master Samael as y'all see it. I'm asking his masters and his teaching and the original. So I'm asking the point of view. So I'm not ridiculing his teaching, not in any shape, form, or fashion, or attacking it. What I'm asking,
where he got his stuff from.
Yeah.
yeah. What I'm asking is that point of view from that point, from that side of society where we're talking BCE. As I said, corrected, that I'm speaking from a historic point of view.
So
belief is belief.
So if I may, if I understand what you're saying, does the message that Master Samael promotes in his book, is that comparable to the Gnosticism from the Aramaic standpoint? I think that is that correct?
Yes, that's what.
And that's, yes. So
Yes.
yes, it is. However, so two things. One, updated. We say updated, but like as Sakina did mention, updated for you say the 1960s. So using language and examples that were concurrent or contemporary for Master Samael during that time period. And I say that because in some of his books, the references or the things that he talks about, like we would say that's kind of dated for now because he wrote it back then. However, the content of what he was writing about is, yes, it is updated, but yes, it does hold those Aramaic roots, sort of, but brought up to say modern standards, but modern being 60 years ago. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, because I do know I like I said, I don't know that much, but what I do know and is I hold it and I look at it as it is a part of religion that was called apocryphal, which I have no problem. I'm wearing ladies and gentlemen, I'm wearing an ankh on my chest. I'm wearing an ankh on my chest. It reminds me. It reminds me of what I'm saying. As far as I'm trying to go as far back as I possibly can. I'm not looking for who's better or right or wrong. That's not what I'm doing. I just want to be able
to say is what is being said here legitimate? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just want to be able to speak the right words when I speak.
Yeah.
So when I speak, you know, of whether it be Gnosticism or Kundalini or the Book of the Dead, for that matter, when we're speaking of Egyptian Gnosticism, or if we go further back to Samaria, to Samaria, you know, I'm speaking. You know, where we're speaking these languages and we're understanding that everybody saw the same thing and everybody, you know, could witness that. And that's where I want to speak from. So that's me asking a question of understanding.
No, absolutely. So I'll offer this. The Venerable Master Samael, depending on the book that you read, will go into the mysteries of the Mayans, the mysteries of the Aztecs. He will talk about the one of the books is called The Necklace of the Buddha. So he spent a lot of his formative years investigating. It wasn't just that he woke up one day and said, "Hey, all of a sudden I'm going to start this movement called Gnosticism. I'm just going to wing it." He spent a lot of time investigating, going back and to a certain extent, relearning what he had already learned in previous existences. So one of the things that the Venerable Master Samael and also Venerable Master Rebelu says is, hey, just because we say it, don't believe it. Test it. You have to become an investigator. You have to become, you know, like a scientist where you have a hypothesis, or you have a theory, you develop the hypothesis and you test it and you test it again. The Venerable Master Rebelu, who was one of his direct disciples, says, just because he says it doesn't mean I buy it. Everything that the Master Samael says, I test, I prove it to myself. And that's one of the things that when we talk about Gnosticism, you know, any instructor will say, just because I said it, just because it's in my lecture or my conference or whatever, that doesn't mean that we expect you to buy it. We're really, when I'm having this conversation with another instructor, said, we're really not here to convince you or to sell Gnosticism. You know, we're not here to you know, to make you believe. I can't do that. I can't make you more than that. I don't want to make you believe, because the moment that I make you, I'm superimposing my will over your free will. That's karmic. Like I have just gained karma.
Yes, sir.
So-
Yes,
We're
brother.
here
I'm
to
with
open a, we're here to open a door for food for thought. And
Exactly.
that's
yes,
to
brother,
try and
that's
help
it.
you know
Okay.
yourself.
And that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm
Exactly.
asking as far as the
Yeah.
the history, because
Yes.
I do believe that at one point in time that things were connected. That's the way that I see it. You
Yeah,
know, for
Oh, you're right.
for me,
Yeah.
for
Okay, I'm gonna have to be the
we to have
timekeeper
that type
again.
of conversation. Yes.
I gotta be the timekeeper again. It's me. I'm back.
Wow. Reverend
Debbie
Ding,
Downer, the party
Ding.
pooper. Hey.
Party pooper, here she is.
Ding, 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 ding. There's always got to be someone. There's always got to be
There's
Always
gotta
someone.
be
someone.
somebody, so it might as well be me, guys.
Well, you know, fellas,
But
we're
this is
we're
one of the
passionate
wonderful
about this.
things that this is one of the wonderful things that I love about people of a like mind.
Mm.
You know, I just met y'all, and y'all are already family. You know, so
Understand.
Sakina will tell you. I called her one day. We had never even seen each other. We were on like a 2 or 3 hour phone conversation from the start.
Oh, wow.
So it's so wonderful to be in the midst of
Yes.
like-minded people because we all connect. We're all one. I mean, we're all one anyway.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
now we have different frequencies and vibrations that we are, you know, allowing that energy to come into our existence and dwell with us. So I am so thankful and so grateful that y'all came here tonight.
Thank you
So
for
a
having
couple
us.
of things that we,
Thank you for
oh,
having
thank
us.
you. And y'all are coming back. Yeah, I just let y'all know this is a trap. This is a trap. You will be back.
We will. I'm looking
in,
forward to it.
in a loving way.
Yes, please.
No,
Thank
Great.
absolutely.
There's a couple of things that we do at the end. We like to, you know, have our Inner Haven commercial. I still don't have a jingle for it. It's been coming since we've been in Inner Haven for 7 years. It hadn't happened yet, but there's still potential. But one of the things that we do like to do is that at the end of each session, we like to talk about, we do a round table and what did you get from this session tonight and how can you apply it to your life? Or are you already applying it to your life? Let us know. So who would like to go first?
I'll start it off. I think one of the things I take away is I personally like always having conversations where we talk about sort of what is Gnosis, because sometimes we lose track of the core, right? We kind of get caught up in certain things depending on where our life is at a particular time. So I always like having or sitting in on these types of conferences or classes because it's kind of a reminder. So when Ahmed mentioned the 3 steps, that's one thing that I sometimes forget, right? You kind of get caught up in your life. But I sometimes do forget about the 3 steps that we are kind of always told to do, you know, like work on yourself and work on elimination of the ego, work on your virtues, you know, fortify those. And the last one, you know, give back to your community, make that sacrifice, that selfless sacrifice. So those are things that I like to reincorporate back into my day-to-day. And I think that's something that I'm taking with me. And probably another one is I need to go back and read some of the books. Give them a second chance.
Well,
Those are my biggest
I'm sending you
takeaways.
some energy, girl.
I'm gonna need it. And I think the last one is probably gratitude for being able to meet all of you guys. So that is
Thank you.
my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you. Who's next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
This has been a most enlightening session. And I'm looking forward to having you guys back again. Because for so long, I have, and I think from what you have said tonight, I have always been a Gnostic. I just didn't know it. I was brought up in the Baptist church, but I've always been a Gnostic, like I said, and just didn't know it. And as moving forward, I intend to do some more studies and to learn more about and expand on what information we've been given this evening. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Harriet.
you.
That was lovely. Thank you. Who's next? I will call on y'all.
I'll go.
I'll go.
Oh, of course, please.
Oh,
Okay.
I was gonna say, I'm just very thankful that you, Ahmed, and Isis and Edith could come and share, because you both, the three of you, put it into words what I wasn't able to necessarily share of the limited knowledge that I have of Gnosis. But Gnosis was around even before Jesus,
Mhm.
because Gnosis was to know thyself. And when Source put our energy into these physical bodies, that's what we were supposed to do. And it was through light and love that we were supposed to know ourselves. But certain humans were enticed by what the earth held and found a way to be greedy about it. And after years and years and years, Jesus came on the scene to kind of remind us. But there were still people that, for whatever reason, maybe didn't understand about reincarnation because they were greedy. They put fear into it. And I feel that modern day Gnosticism is teaching us not to be fearful anymore, to be ourselves to the best of our ability, and to, as Ahmed had mentioned, live each day as if it's our last day. And I'm not very well read and remember things. Andre's very good at this. I'm not, but I feel also it's important to apply. As we read something, immediately apply it. Don't wait and
Mhm.
say, well, as soon as I get all my blocks in a row, then I'm going to do this. But if you read something, then apply it the very next moment. And that's what helps us to grow. And I think Gnosticism does do that. And metaphysics and Gnosticism, to me, intermesh together.
Yes.
So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Sakina. How about you, Forrest?
Well, I want to say thank you for this group. It was really amazing. Understanding like the yin and the yang, but for myself, I had to make sure I am aware of my karma today. That's what I'm going to move forward with applying this meaning to my life, is that I'm be aware of my karma.
Yes, yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. Thank you.
That's what I
Thank you.
learned. Mhm.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Andre? Did you
First of
already do
all,
yours? Okay, I didn't think so.
I'm with you all.
Mhm.
First of all, I want to thank you all, Miss Isis, Amen, Miss A. I really want to thank you all for coming in. This is something that it's a part of history that I study certain things. I am more of a history buff, and with me understanding history, I can understand people. And with me understanding people, I think I can understand what God put me here for.
Hmm.
So I don't ever want to, I'm gonna ask questions. I'm interested in it all, and I have an idea of something somewhere. I may not be as learned as I would like to be, but as Miss Arskina lets you know, I will eat knowledge. I am, if you pour knowledge into my vessel, I will definitely find a way to make it a philosopher's stone. I want to forge these boundaries. And I thank you all for coming in with Inner Haven and being with our family. and sharing your family with our family, so we can understand creation a lot more. So I just want to just be thankful, and what I've learned is to be again thankful and understand.
Oh, thank you, Andre. That was beautiful. Who's next? Ladies first. How about you, Edith?
Thank you. I have no words to thank Akima for thinking about this. This has been amazing. I think it's one of those wishes that has come true for me this year. So Akima, you are my hero right now. Thank you. It's amazing to have us here. Really, I can't get over, us being together. I know that I'm gonna keep telling my daughter for the rest of this week and next week, the following week. I can't believe we did this. But truly, when we get together, it's not just us in the physical that get together. Our souls are now going to be getting together, and it just keeps growing and growing. I truly believe that when two people that have the same emotions, the same interest, and we complement each other. So I feel gratitude. I feel amazing right now. So I thank you guys for giving us this opportunity, and we're here to serve. So if you ever have a question, or there's something that Andrew thinks in the middle of the night, I'm just kidding.
Why is the sky blue?
Say call a man. We love this. We love it because it's not something that is common. A lot of times when you start talking to someone about astro, they look at you like you just lost your last marble. Right? So when we are able to freely talk about these topics, and we actually understand each other, it's like yeah, and it's like, wow, I can't believe I can actually have a conversation with someone that actually understands me and is not part of my family. So that is amazing. That is amazing. And the other thing I can't get over is I want to see the ant again, Andre, because I didn't get to see it. And that was, wow, that is amazing. That is wow.
And I would not have gotten this if I would not have gotten that if I did not go to the metaphysical conference with my family, with my cousin Penelope, and as well as pyramids. So I understood everything that you all were saying. Amen. I understand. Isis. I understand. I understand.
Thank you so much. That's all I have. Amen.
Oh, thank you so much, Edith. And Edith just, she kind of got a rabbit hole started for me when you said that our souls are connecting now, but were they connecting before we met? And how long have our souls been connecting?
It was just a matter of time.
Yes.
Oh, yes, exactly. We love rabbit holes around here. So how about you close us out on Ahmed on
Sure.
on your what is it, round table?
Sure. So I think word that comes to me is fellowship, because it is difficult sometimes to feel that that sort of bonding on this sort of spiritual level with people, especially when it's just You know, we go through our routines, we have the things that we need to do every day, we have the people that we have to interact with, the job, et cetera, school, whatever. And even sometimes within our own family group, okay, I'm lucky, mine's a little bit different, but sometimes even within our own family circle, you feel like the odd duck. And here, I mean, I didn't feel that. Even I felt I felt almost like, man, they get it. I don't need to worry about, hey, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, no, they get it. They're there. Okay, we can have a more productive conversation. We can get past the initial hurdles of reincarnation. What do you mean we live again? Like, well, no, we do. You're crazy. No, I'm not.
Yes.
So thank you guys for one, allowing us to be here, allowing me to speak, and also to feel that warmth that obviously is so much a part of your group, and for letting us feel it as well. Thank you so much.
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think that was everybody's for the roundtable, right? Okay,
Yes,
now
yes.
it's time for Inner Haven. I still don't have a theme song yet. But anyway, this weekend, Harriet is going to come in and give us a class on our continuing study on healing with the chakras. That's from 2 to 4 on Saturday. On Sunday, although I just remember that it's Easter weekend, but we're still going to meet for this weekend, and we're going to meet on Easter Sunday for tarot, and that's also from 2 to 4. During the week, let's see, Wednesdays we have A Course in Miracles, and that's from excuse me, that's from 5 to 6:30. Every Wednesday. And on Thursday, I don't know what we're going to do now. I don't know what we're going to do for the evening. But Thursday mornings, we have Forrest comes in and gives us a session on I Am. It was really great this morning. I had a great time. So we had, so Thursday mornings at 11 a.m., we have Forrest gives us a class on I Am. We don't have anything on Thursday evenings, but we'll figure it out because that's how we do.
I had mentioned a book, but we can talk about it. Maybe Thursday evening we can talk about that and just have an open discussion.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. That sounds good. And
Quick question.
I'm
For your
sorry.
a quick question for your Saturday classes, are you is it on through Zoom? Is it the same
Yeah,
link?
we do it through Zoom. I'm sorry. Yes, I guess I should be telling people that. Yeah, but we do pretty much everything from Zoom.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because we're kind of spread out,
Yeah.
And it saves on gas. It saves on gas, and we don't always have that connection to hug, but our spirits do that. Our spirits do that. Let's see. Also on April the 22nd, from 2 to 4 p.m., we're gonna have the hip hop Hierophant. She's coming in and she's gonna be talking about astro travel. And we met her at that last conference we went to in Virginia Beach, the Holistic Spiritual Conference. So she's gonna, so she decided to, she's taking us up, and she's gonna come and visit us for that Saturday. So we are having a fantastic month of in Inner Haven. So that's pretty much it. And please, you all come to anything I've just mentioned, but please come again. Like
Absolutely.
yeah, we're gonna
we
come
definitely
again.
will.
Y'all are gonna go pretty much be on a regular circuit.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Pretty much be on a regular circuit. Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
that's it for this
Please,
evening, and thank you so much. And Harriet? Yes.
Yes, please visit our YouTube channel. It's Inner Haven. It's a green circle with a white eye in the middle. And please subscribe, and comment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And Ahmad, you said you would close us out in prayer. Would you mind doing
Absolutely. All right. So we close our eyes, focus inward to our heart. Divine Father, we thank you for this opportunity that you have given us to join together with our brethren from Inner Haven. We thank you for this opportunity to have communed with each other, have enjoyed each other's company, exchanged ideas, and shared each other's warmth. We ask that you continue to guide us in our everyday and that you are never far away from us, so that everything we do allows us to one day return to source.
Mm.
In your name, amen.
Amen.
So,
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody, goodbye now. I'm gonna tell y'all this. We usually have, do a little bit of after party, after, a little chat afterward, after the cameras over, after we cut the cameras. So if y'all want to stay for a minute, especially you all, man, because I do want some answers about that rabbit hole I just talked about for a second. So if y'all don't, bye everybody else. Sorry,
Bye.
I can't be here for the after party, but maybe next time. Love you. Bye.
Bye all.
Bye.